What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you how we save tomato seeds from start to finish. So many of you see our seed packets, or you go to the store and you buy seed packets and you just don't understand all the work that goes into just getting a single seed for that packet. And so in today's episode, I'm going to share that with you. I'm also going to show you just how simple it is so that if you wanted to save seeds yourself, you can absolutely save seeds at home using this method. We're saving seeds on a bulk scale, but you don't necessarily have to save seeds on a bulk scale. You could save 5, 10, 20 seeds. And that's the whole spirit of seed saving, is taking the seeds from the crops that you grew, that grew well, that you enjoyed, that tasted good or produced well or had some type of favorable attribute that you think is worthy of continuing on in future years. And so we got here this tomato. This is a variety called Bountylicious. And it is a new one for us. We're actually gonna be carrying this in our seed shop for 2026. It is incredible, absolutely incredible, so productive. It is just loaded down. This plant right here has produced approximately 100 tomatoes. There are plenty more ripening. They are delicious. They got great acidity with very little disease. They are blight, I would say blight resistant, but they're not as prone to it. And because they're a heavy producer, they taste great. They have a lot of amazing attributes that make them desirable. We're saving the seeds from them so that we can put them in our packets for next year. So what is the first thing we did? Well, the first thing we did is we actually bagged our blossoms. Now, as these plants have gotten done producing, we're no longer bagging blossoms. It's not necessary. We don't have enough time to get a tomato to fully ripen. But all of these blossoms, or all these trusses of flowers at one point, had what's called an organza bag. And what we did was we actually wrapped that around these tomatoes so that essentially the tomatoes could not be pollinated by another insect. If we didn't do that, we'd have to space them very far apart. We'd have to space our tomatoes anywhere from 100 to 150 feet to prevent cross-pollination, and that's at a minimum. Some recommend even more than that. So it's either distance or isolation. The organza bags just allow the tomatoes to form without being cross-pollinated because the tomatoes are perfect flowers, and that means that essentially the male and female components are contained in the same flower. If it was something like a squash plant, it'd be vastly different because they have both male and female separate flowers. So those are a little bit different, but tomatoes are easy because as long as you bag those flowers or prevent them from cross-pollinating, or some people don't even care. Some people just say, well, if they cross-pollinate, that's fine. That's just more biodiversity. But we want them to breed true to type. We want to make sure that the tomatoes that we are selling grow to be exactly what they should be. So we bag our flowers. Once the fruit's set, we take off the bags because no longer can they be cross-pollinated, and then they start to form and ripen. From that point, we then take the tomatoes, we're pulling them off the plant. So this process takes the whole season just to get our tomatoes here. At that point, we're pulling them off the plant. We're going to take them to the shop where we're going to squeeze them because we want the seeds inside. And if you think it's just squeezing tomatoes, it's not. There's quite a lot of steps to saving tomato seeds, but it's a real fun one. So we're going to take this bucket of tomatoes. I'm going to finish harvesting the rest of these. We're going to take the bucket of tomatoes to the shop. We're going to get saving tomato seeds. Let's go. Okay, so we're back at the shop and we're going to be saving seeds from the Bountylicious tomato. So one thing that we're going to do is we want to make sure that the tomatoes are at near peak ripeness. If you harvest fruit that is immature, the seeds inside are going to be inviable or have a higher percentage of inviable seeds than ones that sit on the plant longer. Now, this does mean that when it comes to tomatoes, a lot of times we don't actually eat these. They're so ripe and they're so mature that they're almost like this is past its prime, in all honesty. Like, it would be fine if you were eating it, but the thing is we've let it sit on the vine so long to let all those seeds ripen up and mature essentially. And the same goes with all different crops. You want to make sure that those seeds inside are viable and mature, and that way it's going to give you the highest success rate when starting the seeds next year. So all we're going to do for tomatoes is we are going to cut them. I like to cut them in half regardless of the style of tomato. Beefsteak, cherry, paste, slicing tomato, because when we slice them, it opens up the center sections. If you were to slice it like this, it opens up only kind of like half of the sections. There's actually sections on this side of the tomato and this side of the tomato that become a little bit difficult to access, difficult to get the seeds out. So when we're squeezing them and trying to get the seeds out, you got to do a lot more work than what's actually necessary. And a lot of times you end up creating way more of a mess. So I've learned, slice them down the equator of the tomato. That way, when we squeeze, those seeds come right up like that. We can just squeeze them as if we were juicing a lemon and a shake, and they fall right out. And that leaves us with a nice, clean tomato. Now, why are we doing this? Why are we squeezing them into a bucket? Well, it's because we want to ferment them. Now, the seeds of a tomato have a gel coating on them, which makes them very challenging to save effectively with that gel coating. And what we're doing is we're essentially fermenting them to remove that gel coating. Now, what you'll find is that as that gel coating gets disintegrated, it will create like a mold layer, and basically it will just ferment. And all the other tomato meat and the gel and anything like that will all rise to the top and break down from that molding process over the course of about 4 to 5 days. And what's left are your viable seeds that then sink to the bottom much easier. All your seeds like this are better off fermented because it gives you a much better end product. Now, you can take just some regular wax paper. I've got some wax paper here. If you were to take your seeds and put them onto wax paper, it is something that you can do. The problem is there's so much moisture content here, and the gel is really sticky that a lot of times it makes removal of the seeds very challenging. You can do it. It's just so much cleaner and more professional to just ferment them down. And you can do this with 1 tomato, you can do this with 10 tomatoes, or you can do it like us, we're doing it with hundreds of tomatoes. The process is the same. Doesn't matter. They will all ferment down exactly the same. So I'm gonna get all these squeezed into a bucket, and then we're gonna go on to the next step, which is we're gonna add water. Regardless of how much gel we get in this bucket, all these tomatoes are going to go into the bucket. And if we have a cup of gel and seeds, like a cup of material in here, we're going to add about a cup to a cup and a half of water. No more than 2 parts water to 1 part seeds, because we want that to ferment. We want them to actually ferment in there. And so the more water you add, the less it's going to actually ferment, and the less mold is going to be created, and the less you're actually going to have those seeds sink down to the bottom. So we want to add as little water as possible, still while adding enough water to allow that process to happen. So I like about a 1-to-1 ratio for me. So we just got done squeezing all the tomatoes. We come into our utility room here, and just we got from those tomatoes nice bucket of tomato goop. Basically, there's seeds and other stuff in here, and we're simply going to take that and we're going to just fill up the bucket, like I said, with 1 part water to whatever we had of tomato gel and seeds and stuff. Basically, so we have a 1-to-1 ratio. It just allows everything to ferment down a lot easier. It allows the seeds to sink. It allows the mold to rise to the surface because you want it to mold. That's the thing. If it doesn't mold, it will sometimes be okay. But I've had a lot of times where if it doesn't mold, the seeds don't really break away all that well. So we want it to mold. So I've got our bucket of stuff, and we're just gonna take it over and set it by a fan. It's gonna stink a little bit, so we kind of set it away from people. But we let it sit over there and just let it do its thing for 3 or 4 days. All right, so I got 2 here that we just did. These are the Tangerine Crim and the Gold Zebra. And you can see what I'm talking about. So the mold comes at the top, it just kind of breaks down as it starts to degrade all the seed coating, and it smells quite terrible actually. But what we do is we let it sit there for, like I said, 3 days at the very minimum, 4 days usually. If it's colder out or there's not a lot of activity, maybe even 5 days. What you don't want to do is you don't want to over ferment them, because that will actually break down the seeds themselves. You don't want to do that. But what we want to do is we just want to break down that gel coating and all the other meat and the goop and stuff. It helps to make the seed saving process a whole lot easier. So now that we had these done, these were done about 4 days ago, we're going to take them over, we're going to start filling them up with water so we can actually get them clean. Let's go. Okay, so we got our buckets outside. It's a little easier to do it outside. One thing you might want to invest in is just a super cheap little potato masher. Sometimes I find it's nice to just kind of go around and kind of smash down, because it helps to kind of break up that mold layer that can form. Sometimes it can be kind of thick. And then I will break up any additional little, like, you know, if there's some tomato flesh or tomato goop that hasn't fully broken down yet. When I fill them up with water, what's going to happen is all of the other stuff, the impurities, are going to rise to the top. And since the seeds are more dense, they're going to sink. And I'm going to fill this up quite a lot. And then I'm going to let it sit for about 15 seconds to let the seeds sink to the bottom, because right now they're kind of in suspension with all the water coming and going. And so they're in suspension. I'm gonna let them sink, and then I can just basically pour off all the other nasty stuff. And we just kind of rinse and repeat that step as it goes. So I'm gonna let that fill up for a second. I can now take this, I can pour all this off. So as I'm dumping this off, I wanna be careful to not dump too much too fast, because then what happens is the seeds come with it. So if you can see all that cloudiness, those are actually seeds. Dump that off just like that. And what was a super nasty bucket is now a bucket of just clean, pure seed. Then get this, dump all the rest of the seeds in there. That lets any excess water out. And then we'll just take it inside and dry them off. It's so simple. And I will say, sometimes you have to do it a couple times. Sometimes you have to dump 2 or 3 times, freshen up with more water, and you might lose a few seeds off the top. I'm not worried about those. Those seeds off the top might be lighter, more inviable. They might not be good. I'm looking for the bulk majority of seeds at the bottom. So I'm slowly pouring just like that. So I lost what, maybe 10, 15 seeds that came out. Again, those might be inviable. They might not be that great. So now I can rinse this off, and I can quite literally slosh this around. I can get all my seeds out just like that. Now that I've got these mostly dry, there's still decent amount of water I want to press out. I can take them inside and I can put them on wax paper to fully dry. And then we're going to always put the name, because when stuff dries, tomato seeds look like tomato seeds. It's nearly impossible to distinguish. So put our name there. Then we got our seeds just like that. And we want to take them and spread them out. We don't want them all right on top of each other, because it doesn't allow them to dry really well. You want good airflow in between them in a well-ventilated area, because you want them to dry quickly so they don't mold or start germinating, which that's happened to me a couple times. If you want to just, like I said, just kind of pat them out. They don't have to be completely spaced. They'll kind of stick together when they're wet a little bit, but we kind of just make sure that there's no massive clumps, because what we're going to do is, once they're completely dry, is we're going to break them up further from there. Once they're completely dry, we'll take those clumps and kind of just roll them in our fingers and break them up so they're nice, loose, individual seeds. And actually, I should have done this on a more stable location. So now we got it moved to where it's actually going to be drying. Note to self, it's kind of a silly mistake I just made. When you have so much weight, it's difficult to pick up wax paper. So I, in the past, have taken like a cookie sheet to put underneath if I'm going to be moving it. But since I didn't have that, I kind of just picked it up and they kind of all just slid back into the center. So I got to take time to re-space them back out again. But just make sure you put it in an area that can stay unbothered, unbumped, well ventilated for about 2 to 3 weeks. It is surprising how long it takes to get completely dry seed. And you might think I've got completely dry seed after even 5 or 6 days. And in some cases, maybe that is the case. But if you're going to save for long-term storage, it is always better to err on the side of longer than shorter with letting your seeds dry out. Like I said, 2 weeks at a minimum for me, 2 weeks at a minimum. And then from there, then they'll go into a nice vacuum packed bag, take all the oxygen out, really compress them so that there's no room for oxidation and aging, and that keeps viability up. And then we put them into seed packets for all of you guys to enjoy in your gardens. And so this is just one variety. This is Gold Zebra. And this is one of 128 different tomato varieties that we have at MIgardener.com. Not to mention, we have cucumbers, corn, peppers, beans, carrots, lettuce, so many different vegetables. This is just one of over 750 different varieties of vegetable seed. So I hope that this video kind of shines some light on not only how to do this, you can easily do this at your house on a small scale, mason jar, squeeze them in, let it ferment, dry the seeds, all that stuff. But I hope it at least highlights the labor of love that goes into a seed packet. So the next time you pick up a seed packet, it's not just, I got a seed packet. It's, I can't believe all of the hard work that goes into this. There's no machines that do this. There's no machinery. It's all human involvement to get these seeds from, essentially from a seed to a seed packet. So from the seed starting all the way to the planting, harvesting, plant maintenance, everything. It's really a labor of love. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you all learned something new. If you did, make sure to hit that like button. And if you really enjoyed it, go check out MIgardener.com. The best way to support the show is to go check out MIgardener.com and get yourself some vegetable seeds. We have all our seeds, over 750 different varieties over at MIgardener.com. And it's probably the best selection you're gonna find just about anywhere. So really excited about it. Really happy to be able to provide that service. We're also happy to be adding on to our collection. So we're gonna be offering these this November. If you're watching past November, check out MIgardener.com. They're probably already on the website. Grow bigger. We'll catch you later. See ya. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care. Bye.